Hello everyone and welcome back to the Driven by Us podcast, driving change in STEM and media in the motorsport industry. I'm your host, Nina-Jade Paul, and today I am joined by a very special guest. He's an absolute trailblazer, someone who is distinguished humanitarian engineer, an entrepreneur, an advocate for diversity in STEM. Hailing from Peckham, South London,
There's only one place.
There's only one place. He's made significant strides in engineering and social impact initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, George Imafidon MBE.
What do I say after that?
We mustn't forget the MBE.
Yeah, no, that is the best introduction I think I've had on the podcast. So no, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, we'll touch more on the MBE later, but how are you today?
Feeling blessed, living a dream, as they like to say in the motorsport world. It's, I feel blessed, feel privileged to do what I get to do now, and it's been a good start to the year, I would say.
Good.
In terms of on the motorsport side, but also on the motive side and DBU side. Like, this is probably our busiest week that I think we've ever had, but for good reasons in terms of impact. So happy.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for joining us. I am really excited for this episode. I did a deep dive on you, George. I now know everything. I'm kidding.
DBS, enhanced DBS.
Yeah, enhanced DBS on you, sir. But some of the things you've done and some of the things you've achieved are not only incredible, but they're also incredibly inspiring. I'd like to take us back down to the beginning. Definitely. I know your fascination with engineering began with fixing bikes.
Yeah,
is that right?
Spot on.
Okay. How did you learn how to fix bikes?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when I was hanging in and around Peckham, so by my house, you've got a few estates, and one of the estates, I would see a few of the olders always on their bikes. At that point, I never really had a bike, or somehow I'd kind of be using other people's bikes. So I saw him fix one of the oldest, fixing quite a few other people's bikes, and I was thinking, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I just liked how it worked. I guess a bike, just like things moving, for me has kind of always been the interest. So it's not just bikes, anything moving, but bikes is where it started. That's where I had access to. So I think at that point, I was like, okay, cool. Our bikes are getting punctured. The bike shops are pretty expensive. I think I can do this too. So I just went to the £1 shop, repair shop, all of that stuff. And you said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go. So it started off with an inner tube, and then it started going to gears and any part of the bike I could essentially fix. And sometimes it might be a case that I get the bike shop to fix it first, really watch them, see what they're doing, and then, do it myself. And I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I learn by doing. So as soon as I knew it once, I was good. So yeah, I would say I learned from the elders in Peckham, I would say.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's a community story
It's
as
a
well.
community story, yeah.
I personally love a bit of nostalgia, so we are going to take a trip down memory road. But just so the listeners can fully understand your journey and your trajectory, your career, can you explain exactly what it is you do? I know you are a man of many hats, George, but what it is you do and what your working week kind of looks like.
Yeah, I would say I wear three main hats.
Okay.
Right? So the first hat that most people know me for is Motorsport. So I started off kind of the motorsport career working with Lewis Hamilton as a junior engineer for his electric racing team called Team X44, and then went to become a performance engineer with ProDrive, and then eventually became a race engineer for the Team X44 team, and then we won the championship in the middle of that. So that's kind of where a lot of the kind of popularity came, let's say that, right? But that kind of phase of my journey has been all around humanitarian engineering, as you kind of described. Like, I can see the impact we can make on people, but ultimately engineering is all about people. It's not just about how fast this car goes or how light it is. All of that stuff is cool, but the best thing is when people have problems, how can you take solutions from the motorsport industry and other industries and apply it to them? So that mindset, I take it to other places. So it starts there, but then the second hat I wear is Motivez, right? So as a CEO of Motivez and one of the co-founders, it's really about okay, my best and highest use, if I'm honest, isn't just to be an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm the brightest and best engineer there is in the world. And that's not because I don't believe in myself. It's just because that's actually not my focus, right? That's not where I think my gift is. My gift is being able to get more people to believe in themselves that they can actually do what I'm doing and hopefully do it even better than me.
Yeah.
So through Motives and kind of the DBU platform, I would say predominantly is what takes most of my time. It's all about impacting thousands of young people every single year to access STEM and become change makers. And if we create enough change makers, it means that right now I feel like I'm an anomaly. Is the truth, right? And a lot of us in the community are anomalies, but if we can create enough of them, enough people inspired, then I don't have to really do this anymore. So that's my focus, right? And then at the third level, it's all about advocacy. So it's about sitting on boards, places where I can get access to resources that maybe aren't mine, I've not done anything to get, but it's people that have power and influence, and I can give millions of pounds to causes that I actually care about, that are going to mostly impact young people yet again, but it's kind of deeper pockets than I would ever have, and like shape policy and all these things that no one really cares about. But I always say, look, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. If you don't do STEM, STEM will do you too, right? So it's about how do we make sure we're all in those rooms where decisions are being made and magic is happening. So I want to be on all of those levels: grassroots, business, and kind of governance.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And like I said, you are a man of many hats. That was a lot.
Yeah,
a lot for one human.
It is. But I love it.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. So going back, fixing bikes obviously sparked your early interest.
Yeah.
When did you know you wanted to actually pursue a career, firstly in engineering?
I would say, so first of all, when I was fixing bikes, bear in mind at this point, I thought, I didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, I've just learned from the older. They didn't say what it was. I just learned by doing. That's it, right? I'm helping people. That's all I'm seeing here. So I was like, do I do medicine, engineering, something in the middle? So I was thinking about biomedical engineering, all of this stuff, because ultimately I just wanted to help people. That was my main focus, right?
Yeah.
And then when I was in year 9 and I got to choose some options for GCSEs, at that point I was thinking, you know what, motor mechanics sounds like the closest thing to what I've actually been doing, so let me go for that. And then I spoke to my brother and his friend at the time, and they were like, don't do that, do engineering. This will give you so much more options, and motor mechanics can, is like just the practical side, but you can also learn the theory of how these things are built, right? And design them yourself and not just fix them. So I said, you know what, this is pretty cool, let me go for that. So I chose that as an option, which isn't common in the UK. I don't know, when you went to school, was there any engineering as a GCSE option?
Absolutely not.
No,
it was
right?
the basic subjects that are, I don't know what it is now, but
yeah, you have even D&T, for example, is like going down.
But even then we were discouraged from taking subjects like D&T, business.
Exactly.
They're not proper GCSEs.
Exactly.
That's what we were told.
Exactly that. So that's why they keep dwindling down. So I was there at Kingsdale in South, and I was very privileged to choose that as an option in year 9, and then I did it in year 10 and year 11, and I just loved it. Like that was the subject that made all the other subjects feel like, okay, cool, now I know why I'm learning maths, now I know why I'm learning English. It kind of put it all into context for me. So everything else was a means to an end to do engineering. Like I didn't love the other subjects, in all honesty. It was just like, if I can do this engineering, then great. So I was in the top 1% in the country for that course, for that subject.
Wow.
Like I loved
say
it.
That again?
I was coming in on
say
Saturdays.
Say it one more time, George. If you don't say it, I'll say it.
In the top 1% in the country for that course.
He was in the top 1% in the country for that course he was doing. Right. Okay.
I loved it. I was coming in on Saturdays. The portfolio was great. Of course, I needed to get help for some of the drawings. I'm not the best drawer, right? But like in terms of the problem solving, I loved it. Like, and my teacher at the time was super inspiring. So I think from that point, it was very clear that, okay, medicine is cool, but like engineering, in some way should definitely be the route, and I was validated in that sense. So I said, cool, I'm going to go down this path, and I felt like I already had a bit of advantage on my peers because I knew not that many people actually did engineering at that stage. So I said, like,
you got this.
I've got this. I'll be good. I'll be good. So yeah, not in terms of the exams, but in terms of the building of the products, and I was always strong there.
Did you have any, or can you attribute anyone or anything to an inspiration along the way? What inspired you?
You know what? The first inspiration may be cliche, but actually is not in many ways, because many people say that, you know, there's not that many women in STEM right now. You know, the stats are fairly low. But I'd actually say my mum, right? Not because she's an engineer, she's not. You know, she worked multiple cleaning jobs and all of that stuff. But for me, what was amazing every single time is she was so resourceful and like practical. If anything is broken or whatnot, or she would definitely be the one fixing it. She's not calling in anyone to do what she needs to do. Of course, at some point she does, but for the most part, she's a self-starter. She's
That's
like,
me, to my peril though, because I'll be there struggling.
But yeah, and look, I think she'll struggle sometimes, but she'll get it done, right?
Okay.
She'll get it done. So I think to get me to be like biased to action, she was the one. And I think from like a practical like engineering point of view, like design and stuff, that would definitely be like my teacher, Mr. Beamer. Legend.
It's a great
shout
name.
out to him.
Mr. Beamer, did he have a Beamer?
I don't think he had a Beamer. He only rode a bike, to be fair.
Okay. Maybe he has one now.
Maybe he has one now. Who knows, right? But yeah, he was a legend, and yeah, I'm sure he still is for other kids in schools.
Nice. Okay, so just fast forwarding a little bit. You graduated with a master's degree, a first class honours master's degree. I will toot your horn for you, George.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us a little bit about your university journey and then what you specifically chose to study?
Yeah, so I remember my first day at uni. I was like looking around and I was like,
where did you go?
UCL, so
Okay.
University College London, which is not too far from here. And at that time, my main reason for going there was I wanted to go to one of the best unis in the world. Because I wanted to be around some of the best students in the world, because I thought, hey, that's great in terms of not settling. I want to be around people that aren't settling. That's what I mean by the best people. And then I wanted to spin something out post-uni, like a company or business, a product or something. So I thought if I'm in London, the startup ecosystem or wherever I am, I need to be in an ecosystem that loves like making things happen, right? So UCL was perfect for that. So I said I'll go there. And then I also did like a summer school just before. So they would have given me a scholarship, which is a pretty nice scholarship. I think I forgot what it was at the time, maybe like 5K or 10K like every year. So I said, you know what, like it's a good reason to put that as my firm choice. So,
Yeah.
and by the time I was kind of in uni, I probably had 6 scholarships or so. So I was basically being paid to go to uni at this rate. So I said, you know what, that's why I went to uni. You know, right now, I would definitely consider degree apprenticeships and all of that stuff, because why not? So that was like a big privilege that I think I had. But as soon as I stepped in on that first day and I looked around, I was like, well, there's no one here from Peckham. There's this from South is a stretch, you know.
Like a fish
I
out
think
of water.
yeah, it's fish out of water. And I've never necessarily been the person that says, you know, you can't be what you can't see, because I think somebody has to be the first to do something. And I'm definitely a leader from that perspective. So I didn't mind that. It was just a big culture shock. And even the places that people have been schooling at, it's like a considerable amount of people that had schooled kind of privately. It was like, okay, cool, it's very different. And I have nothing against it. It was just a lot to take in and learn and navigate, right? Because there's a language, there's a way of doing things that I kind of had to learn. But fortunately, I had like other schemes and programs that I was in that allowed me to navigate those spaces pretty well. So first year, I didn't do too great, but I was just about, you know, to make sure I can stay on that first class. Well, I got like a 2-1 every year up until my last year, basically.
First year I didn't do too great. I got a 2-1.
Yeah. No, but you know, it was according to like what I wanted. I thought, I'm going to be the best of the best. From being like top 1% in the country in the engineering course to then having to, it's like, oh, this is a fall from grace.
Okay.
I'm not the best of the best.
Yeah, by your standards.
By my standards,
Yes.
right? But like personally, I thought, you know what, the course isn't actually what it's all about. And that's what I learned, right? It was like, I only enjoyed a few of the modules, like maybe at any one time, 25% of the modules, maybe up to 50% in my final year. So there was no way that I'm going to like absolutely smash it, because that's not my priority. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, but I think the biggest thing was hearing about Formula Student, and that's what got me interested in motorsport, particularly whilst I was there. But yeah, university experience was positive overall, I would say, but it is what you make it. And I don't believe in the institutions in that sense. I believe the students make the institution. So anytime the institution is tooting their own horn. I think it's they've got some credit, but it's mostly the students that are making it happen. So yeah.
Interesting. Would you say there are different educational paths that one could take to pursue a STEM career in motorsport, or is there a sort of direct?
Yeah. So from what I've seen, being in the industry, first-hand experience, still very popular from an engineering perspective to have a degree. So that is still the default. That's 95% of the people that I've spoken to have a degree in mechanical engineering, or they've done automotive engineering. Quite a few people in the institutions that I've been in, like motorsport firms, have done a master's in motorsport, and they specialized in that to show their interest.
Okay.
Cranfield is one of the top places to go from that perspective. So often I've seen a lot of people there, but I've also seen the opposite of people that no degree to their name, they're just so good. Like, especially like the software engineers, they're just self-taught. They've been there, done it. It would be kind of stupid not to hire them because they know what they're doing. So I would still say that the experience beats everything else, for sure. But not a lot of people can get that experience and the practical hands-on stuff apart from probably like software engineering and stuff, because you can code from your room. You know,
code from anywhere. I wish I continued with MySpace.
Yeah, exactly.
I always say this. I used to. Did you have MySpace?
Yeah. I had it for a little bit, but I went straight to Bebo. Like, it was like immediate. Almost.
I don't know. There's 2 years between us, and I don't know if that 2 years.
Yeah, it was that 2 years. It was probably that 2 years that made a difference.
In my year group, MySpace was huge, and everyone, the fancier you could get it by these little codes. I wish I continued.
This is what I mean. It's like, if you did, you never. You could have been anywhere now, isn't it?
George.
But it's not too late. It's not too late. It's
not
too late.
There's no time anymore in this adult life. There's no time for anything.
It's true. Adult, isn't it?
Right, let's talk Motivez.
Yeah,
you touched on it earlier. But in 2015, you co-founded Motivez, which is an organisation aimed at empowering the youth aged 14 to 25 to access entry-level STEM opportunities. Firstly, can we discuss the name?
Yeah.
Did you come up with it?
No. So my co-founder came up with it. So it came from the phrase, "What's the motive?" which just means, you know, what is there to do today? So at the time, fun fact, of course, people kept asking the question, particularly in South, and my co-founder came to me. Peckham, Burger King is kind of where we sat down, and he was telling me about this idea, and I was like, okay, cool. And he said, I want to call it Motive Z for Gen Z. The S was taken or something like that. It was like, cool, go for it. And then it was like, let's help people find events that they can explore their interests, whether it be nightlife or other educational interests. So it was actually a bit of both.
I was going to ask that, because obviously growing up, what's the motive? You're going out. Like, what, you're trying to find somewhere to go out?
Exactly.
So I was going to ask, what was the initial intention behind Motivez?
Yeah. So we pivoted, and that's business for you, right? Like, you start off with trying to solve one problem, and you realize that, you know, people might like it, they might not. You have to speak to your customers and people, they use it, and they tell you, and they kept telling us that, hey, like, we actually don't need more nightlife events. There was Shubs.com at the time. Remember Shubs.com?
Is it not still going?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, surely still going.
Look, nightlife will never end.
No,
you know what I mean?
There'll always be an event somewhere.
There's always an event, right? But one thing I was sure of is when it came to like the pretty cool events to explore your interests, whether it be engineering, tech, or whatnot, no one goes for Eventbrite to really sort of say, whatever. Yeah. It just doesn't happen, right? So we said, more and more we kind of shifted from the nightlife and said, you know what, wouldn't it be pretty cool to have a motive that is as good as the one that we're speaking of, but you don't have to, you know, wake up dreaded what you did last night, you know what I mean? Like, you can actually just have good fun, good vibes with good people. So we started to curate a list of events and opportunities that people could explore their interest, whether it was kind of arts, business, entrepreneurship, tech, anything in STEM in general. And then more and more as time went on, STEM became the focus, because we realized that we were mostly engineers, you know, over 70% of us in the team. So it was like, we can build stuff, we can do that. So let's help people do that. But the first thing we did was build the app, and the Motivez app. And that was a time to be alive. That was 10 years ago. So
it flies, isn't it?
It flies.
I mean, under your leadership, George, Motivez has supported over 10,000 young people in the UK so far. You mentioned how, you know, the intention behind Motivez, it pivoted and it evolved. Was there a specific moment or experience that made you realise we need something like Motives specifically for engineering?
Yeah, I would say for me getting into engineering was like a very lonely journey because, for context, the friends that I went to school with, most of them would have been kicked out year 9.
Okay.
Sometimes even earlier, even if they made it to year 11, just about, and then they would just about pass.
Okay.
They were not going on to further education, and if they did, definitely not university. That was just not an interest, not an aspiration, if I'm being all, honest with you. So me going into engineering was like, most times then it's like, bro, you're unique. You're like, what are you doing? Like, who does that? You get what I mean? So that was a very lonely journey to be kind of from a place like
quite
Peckham.
isolating.
It's very isolating. So I was like, look, I don't want the 8-year-old George, 10-year-old George, 14-year-old George to have to experience this. Like, if he's going to choose that subject at GCSE, I want him to feel empowered and feel like, you know what, you've made one of the best decisions. In fact, you've made the best decision you could ever make. I've got a bias, to STEM. So I said, look, you've made the best decision, and I wanted to reinforce that. And I was like, what better way to do that than to go to the kids wherever they are and tell them that you've made the right decision, and I'm going to give you an insight into what it actually means. Because the same way I didn't know what engineering meant when I was trying to choose my options is the same way that they probably don't have a good idea of what it means in practice. So I said, look, if I'm going to aim to do one of the coolest jobs in the world, which I think is a race engineer, I'm going to make sure that the kids know all about it. And now we work with kids as young as like 10, in Birmingham,
Babies.
everywhere. Yeah, babies. And those
goodness.
babies, year 6s, they're on it. They are on it. They are,
I love
I love it. And we'll be taking them to factory visits and all of that stuff. They are the next, crop of engineers, and it's beautiful to see.
Well, that's where it has to start, isn't it? It's grassroots. It's the really important thing that people don't realise is having that pipeline, starting them young.
Exactly. On that, key thing that I saw, because there was other organisations supporting me, right? But that point that you made is a great point, because in terms of starting that grassroots, because all those organisations felt like they were kind of polishing the best students,
right?
Anyway, so in terms of the transformational journey you could take someone on, if they're already at this place of UCL or whatever it is, the likelihood is they've jumped most of the hoops and loops already. But I want to really make sure that people that never thought that they could do it, or people that were doubting themselves, really have that chance earlier. And you can transform their prospects. So yeah,
exactly. But just then you end up with a really diverse bunch of engineers, mechanics, drivers, even decision makers.
Exactly.
And from that, you get a broader society and a broader perspective of things.
Exactly.
Things
100%.
that wouldn't necessarily be thought about before. So that's why it's really important. But what is if you were to sum up the mission of Motives, just in a sentence, what is it that you guys do?
Yeah, to empower underserved young people to access STEM jobs and become change makers.
I love it.
That's it.
Clear cut and concise.
It's all about the change maker part.
Yeah.
The change maker part, because we really need that virtuous cycle. So it's not enough for me to get a job in the industry. Like, a lot of us get a job in the industry and then we celebrate, cool, and then that's it. For me, that's just not enough. We really need to make sure that person becomes a mentor, that person keeps the ladder down, right? And not because they have to, but make them want it. And for me, that's the Motives mindset. It's like, you want to serve. Like, me just being a race engineer is cool, like being on TV, but what are you doing to make sure that things are better for the next crop of people that are coming up? That's how you make something sustainable.
Exactly. I 100% agree. Did you face any challenges, George, in building the company? If so, how did you navigate them?
Yes.
You sighed there. Was there a lot?
Yeah. It's just the challenges have never ended. I'm still facing challenges now, I would say. And that's what a lot of people don't see, right? So if I give you something, so my job is to make sure that everyone's bills are, everyone has their salary by the end of the month for the most part, right?
Keep the lights on.
Yeah, exactly. To keep the lights on, right? So from that perspective, you're always trying to convince people that, first of all, this is something worthy of investing in. Not everyone believes that. We might apply for 10 things and get one, if not none of them. You know what I mean? So we kind of know our hit rate, we know, but most times we're failing our way to success. And most people reject us when we make a proposal, is the honest truth. So yeah, there's a lot of those, but for me, it's just, this is part of the process. As an engineer, I say, okay, cool. If I do 10 applications, I only get one, cool. As long as I don't spend too much time on that 10, it's worth it. And you just get a formula that works, and you just keep doing it. And every year we've grown year on year, but it doesn't get easier. You get better at what you do. You build up more trust, and people start to come to you as opposed to you coming to them. So I think all of those things come. But I would say, yeah, the biggest challenges have been predominantly, I'd say, fundraising and scaling. Now, we went from one borough to now over 6 boroughs, over the last year alone, and then now we're doing national work. So
wow. Yeah,
that's a strain for the whole team.
I think when you're constantly scaling, there are new challenges that arise, of course, with anything. But I think what you said can be applied to anything. How do you stay motivated?
So me personally, like, I'm big on faith. So like that faith, my belief in this is like a God-given mission. It's not just me just here because I think I need it. Because I think inherently we're all a bit selfish, in some way or another. So you need something to ground you. And for me, that's my faith that grounds me the most. So anytime I'm getting stressed or I kind of need that extra motivation, to your point, for me, it's just that prayer and that, like, God, a lot of times, especially when I finished uni, I was like, because it was in the pandemic, right? Gosh. I was like, God, I haven't applied for a single thing.
Yeah.
At the moment, I feel called to now support people that have lost all their jobs, lost all their internships. If you want me to do this, you're going to have to come through. And that's how I'm talking to God for the most part, right? And that's how it is. So I'm really resting and relying on that. So there's that supernatural part for me that is big, and that's what keeps me motivated. But I've also got like a great group of friends, good accountability. So when I don't want to do things, you got people that will whip you into shape. I got people that whip me into shape. So yeah, but ultimately I see this as a blessing and the best job I could ever have. Like, I get paid to do this. That's a privilege. So perspective is very important.
I agree. And God came through.
Exactly. And he keeps coming through.
He does. So. You mentioned it actually about mentorship. How important is mentorship, specifically in the motorsport industry? And what are some of the ways people can find a mentor?
Yeah, it's a great question. Mentorship for me is everything, because I remember my first CV was dead. First cover letter, dead. And that's like, people see it all now and they're like, oh yeah, you got it all together. No, I don't. I've just iterated so many times, and you haven't seen the iterations, you've seen the final product, and I need to do a better job at documenting the process. So I've not done the best to let people know, like, this is how it all works. But ultimately, that's what mentors do. They help to accelerate that process of your iteration. So all the blind spots that you have, they make sure that you become aware of them much quicker. So the self-awareness, improves. The awareness of like how to navigate certain environments improves. So I remember when I joined an organization called the Amos Bursary, I had a peer mentor. He was similar age, that he was helping with my, personal statement and stuff, because he had just done it a few years before. Let other people kind of, give me feedback. I had a professional mentor that was like a managing director at EY, so he was bringing me to the office so I could get comfortable in that space. I kind of met people in motorsport that would allow me to come to the factory, and funnily enough, it's that same factory that years on I actually started my first motorsport job, and that's just how it goes. But because I went there before, I felt comfortable that this was the right decision. So it's that exposure that you get from the mentor that is amazing, and the way that they accelerate your pathway. And in terms of how to find them, I never ask someone to actually be my mentor, like, practically. I believe you can, and this is for anything in life, if you want that thing, act like you're there already.
Yeah, I do that.
That's how to do it. Like, why, who wants, like, when people say, I want to pick your brain, nobody wants their brain picked, at the end of the day. So it's like, just focus on how you can serve that person, if you can, and you ask explicitly. And if you've got any questions, just ask and show that as soon as they've given you an answer. Sometimes it's a numbers game to get that person, or you have to keep, persistent. But as soon as you get that answer, show that you've taken action, follow up, and then it's all about trust. And as soon as you kind of keep building that trust, then you're good. But I would say it's really outreach and a numbers game, and most people are willing to help, but it's either most people don't ask, is the honest truth. So
don't ask, don't get.
Don't ask, don't get.
Yeah.
So yeah, for all my mentors, it's been a question of asking, or I've joined the program that has formally given me a mentor, but that's me asking technically to be on the program.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah.
If, George, you could give one piece of advice to a young person dreaming of starting their own initiative or company, what would it be? What's the most important piece of advice?
If they're
thinking about starting their own company or initiative, or
yeah, I would say a good understanding of people, like, and building relationships.
And that's underestimated.
It's underestimated. And even I've had experiences this year, 10 years into business, where I've underestimated the importance of trust and building that, and how without trust, nothing works. You don't have high performance without trust.
No.
So because people are putting their neck on the line to make this thing happen, they need to know they can trust on you. And if they fall, you're going to be there to pick them up. If there's no trust, it's not going to happen. So if you want people to do things for you, especially when they have to go out of their way to make sacrifices, you have to trust. So even if I look at an organization that's driven by us, it's because we all trust James. If we don't trust James, this does not work. You'd be like, he's a bit shady, isn't he? I'm not sure. I'm not really feeling him. And we won't do all of this.
Yeah.
Is the honest truth. So I would say how to build trust and accelerate that, because it's all about the people that you bring on the mission with you that bring it to life. I haven't brought this all to life. It's been the team that have done it. So
of course,
yeah.
I like that it wasn't your typical answer as well.
Yeah.
People really do underestimate the power of people.
Yeah.
And knowing how to talk with people, deal with people, gain people's trust.
Especially as engineers and stuff. Engineers, a lot of time you know them for not having great emotional intelligence and all
not
of
great
this.
Social
not
skills.
great social skills. We need to stop that.
Yeah.
We've come too far. We know what emotional intelligence is now. We need to be building it. Yeah.
Agreed. George is a man of God. George is a man that hails from Peckham and still lives in Peckham.
Yeah.
George is a man that wears many hats. Who is George away from work? I think my hobby, which is like Formula One and sports, has become my work.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like, gosh, who am I away from this now? Like, that used to be my go-to answer for hobbies, and I'm like, oh, who am I?
Yeah.
Who is George away from work? What does he like to do? Hobbies, favourite meal, spare time?
Oh, man. Like
the fact you're having to ponder on it.
No. There's so many things that are coming to my mind.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So like for me, I remember like having a therapy session, and the question was like, what is fun to you?
Okay.
Like define fun, and what do you do for fun? I was like, okay, it was a hard question. Yeah. It's a hard one.
I love sleeping. That is great
It's
fun.
good. It's good though. It's good, especially when you're
me.
working all the time, right? But for me, I would say George, outside of all of those things, is someone that loves Trap Kitchen. Have you been to Trap Kitchen before?
I have been to Trap Kitchen.
I love
many
food.
a time. There's one in Camden now, which is a bit nearer to me.
That's the last one that I've gone to.
Oh, right.
Yeah. That's a good one. So yeah, I love foods. Always traveling around the world, around the country. That's the only time I come to North London for food.
For food? Where have you been for food in North London?
Almost anywhere. I have to try a Congolese spot over there, because
are you Congolese?
My wife's half Congolese.
Okay.
So
I'll give you some recommendations of North London food spots. We've got some good
all the
ones.
time. I've been to some like Turkish shops, of course.
Of course. So you're in North London.
Yeah. So I've been there. So yeah, food for sure is definitely what takes up a lot of my free time. Other hobbies, of course, like naturally it's cliche, but I love it. Like karting is still something that takes my mind away from so many things. Badminton, when I get a good chance, I love that. Running, so I was at the London Marathon supporting some friends this time, but I've done 3 marathons in the last 4 years, so this time was a good chance to get a break.
George, you were superhuman. Where do you find the time?
That's what keeps me kind of tops up the energy.
Okay, nice.
And
I was
like,
going to say, how do you recharge?
Yeah, that's what helps me recharge and just zone out a bit. So had a good jog this morning. It's what helps me for sure. So I would say running has been the number one thing, and that started actually when my brother was forcibly imprisoned, and then that was my outlet.
Oh,
and so
gosh.
that was when I was 14 or
You
so.
were
So
young. How old was your brother?
he was 18, so he
Okay.
got imprisoned on his 18th birthday is when he got, he didn't have the best 18th. He did celebrate a little bit before, so thankfully to him. But for the most part, that was it. So, you know, at that time and during his whole sentence before he was acquitted, that was like my big outlet. And then that stayed. So since I was 14, so for the last, 14 or so years, so every like peak period I've had in life, I've kind of gone back to that. So it's, there's a reason for everything. So that was a good thing for me.
Well, you know, it's a healthy outlet to
It's
have.
a healthy
it's not an
outlet.
unhealthy one, so keep going with it.
And even in the marathon, I saw so many people running for so many different reasons. And that's why I love running. It's just like you're pushing yourself, but there's something very intentional and purposeful behind it. So
I've just started to run.
You just started? Look at that.
8 days ago.
Come on, I love that. You didn't
It's
catch the
hard.
5K or what you
I'm trying to, I'm not forcing myself. So
Enjoy it.
I've been doing like 2.5K because I have to. George, the stamina is at 0 for me.
Even you did more than me today. I only did 2K. So you're smashing it.
Steps in, you know. So I want to do 5K in half an hour. That's what I want to build to.
Are you going to do the Hackney 5K?
No, absolutely not.
Why?
No.
Next year.
It might be in a few years. I just want to improve my stamina, and I really want to get
If you do the Hackney 5K, I'll give you £100 on camera.
It's going to have to be more than that.
Okay, next time.
Right, okay. So just shifting gears a little bit. We've talked about, you know, diversity and how important grassroots is. What would you say the current state of diversity and inclusion is in the motorsport industry at the moment?
It is in a place whereby I feel like it's in a pendulum. So it swings in a positive direction and then it goes back again to, wait, didn't we speak about all of this and cover all of this already? You know, so... And we're speaking about STEM specifically, or like motorsport, like
or both, really.
Yeah. So motorsport, I would say, is one of the hardest sports to do this in, because in the UK, kind of professionally, you don't have too many people in the industry. I forgot what it was, like 40,000 people or so. So, you know, Google has like 5 times that amount of employees. So it's pretty small when you think about it, right? And it's often based upon relationships and the motorsport valley, which is not where a lot of people that might be from kind of other backgrounds are based. They're based in kind of the inner cities, right? So there's some geographical barriers and all of those things. And we know that. And then the Hamilton Commission, we kind of looked at what is the status of, like, you know, diversity now. And we did that piece of research back in 2020, thereabouts. So I would say 5 years on, I've personally seen so much progress. But this is individual stories now we're speaking. Whether the industry and the systems have shifted, I would need to do a bit more research into that. But what we've done, I believe, is create communities like Driven by Us, for example, that have really made people that want to go into motorsport feel like, you know, I belong in motorsport as much as anyone else. And I think that has been the best part of it for me personally. So it's those personal anecdotes where if I look outside and someone that is not in the Driven by Us community, for example, I think they're probably still struggling to get in and not really feeling like they belong. So we've still got a long way to go, but I would say organizations like DBU give me a lot of hope for where the industry can go, motorsport specifically. And across them, I would say, like, representation has increased. It's just, to what extent is the question now? And yeah, I definitely would need to get a bit more information.
More data.
Yeah, a bit more data, right? To really know. I'm an engineer at the end of the day, but from an anecdotal point of view, would it be easier for George to get into motorsport now? Yes, but that's because I know all the communities that exist that can now help me get there that probably didn't exist before. So it's, the timing is great. It's just, we just need more opportunities now. Yeah.
You mentioned barriers. You mentioned specifically geographical barriers, for
Yeah.
example. What are some of the barriers that underrepresented groups face when entering the industry, and how can the barriers be addressed?
Yeah. So one of the biggest one for me that I see is actually once they get into the industry, I would say. So I'll speak about that first and then I'll speak about, getting in.
Sure.
But when they're in the industry, the biggest challenge is psychological safety. So they're there and they don't feel safe. So therefore they can't perform at their highest for year on year. In fact, they've had a dream industry and now they want to leave.
Yeah.
Which is so sad to see, right? And for some people, for example, for women, it's even worse because you're surrounded by a lot of guys and it's changing ever so slightly, but it's still the case. And again, emotional intelligence isn't there as much as it should be. So I would say it's actually being in that environment sometimes. We still have some work to do in terms of making sure people are psychologically safe and feel comfortable. I've had times where that has worked really well, and it really depends on your manager sometimes.
Yeah.
It's literally just that in any industry, if I'm being very honest. It's just I'm in motorsport, so
Yeah, you're speaking from that perspective.
I'm speaking from that perspective, right, of what I'm seeing from friends and different people in the industry, but naturally also from like an engineering perspective and the kind of stereotypes we know of engineers. So I would say that's definitely one thing in the industry, but getting in more generally, I would say it's still very much, getting a summer placement in uni, if you're in uni, is still like very, very, very difficult. But should they be in the right communities and the right people, then I think it should be okay. I've had a lot of people that are now in Formula One that I've never had in my life. Like this is the best time that we've ever had. But I would say it is that kind of readiness, that application readiness to go and compete with their peers. So they just need a network in order to do that. But I would say it's still that. It's just the readiness of getting that job and going through the application process. I remember for me, for example, when I went for one F1 team, I won't say the name, but they kind of made me play with Lego, for example. And at that point, I hadn't really played with Lego and they wanted me to build. But as a kid, Lego wasn't really a big thing. It was bikes and stuff. It wasn't Lego. So that was actually bias in the system. You would never think that though.
Yeah. But you wouldn't think that.
Yeah.
But I didn't play with Lego. I didn't have a Scooby.
Exactly. So that makes me a news. So, but they really wanted me to make something out of this. And I was like, I don't really know what you want me to do.
But had you played with Lego as a kid, you would have aced that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as long as you know those stories and you're aware of that, and I do, I can tell you, okay, cool, these are the different things that you need to think about before going to that interview and that interview. And now we can do that, for example, in the DBU case, but before that was very difficult. So I would say people still struggle a lot with that, and that's what they come to us for help on. And we've got some programs to help them with that now, which is great.
Which is so important and so inspiring.
Exactly.
Personally, I think you very much fit into this category, but who are some other role models, individuals in the industry that are paving the way for greater inclusion?
Greater inclusion. I would put James right up there. Why not? Because he keeps this whole ship going. The big boss. James is great, and he's built a collective of people that care and that want to see the industry, kind of performing at its best with the best people there. So definitely him, and almost everyone on the committees and within the kind of community, but he's brought us all together. So I would say James, if there was one name. I'll give him his flowers now. This will be my chance.
Shout out James.
Yeah.
Right, so you touched on it earlier, but you obviously served as a race engineer for Team X44 Vida Carbon Racing, which for those who don't know is Sir Lewis Hamilton's electric racing team. So in 2022, you played a pivotal role in the team's victory in the Extreme E World Championship. Can you tell us a bit about how that particular job came up for you? I mean, I'm intrigued. Like, did you apply on Indeed? Like, was there an application process? Interviews?
Yeah, so these things are, especially with championships, so small. So do you know how many people are in like each team?
No.
In Formula One, you've got around 1,000 people or so per team, right? Which is crazy to get two cars around,
Yeah, that's insane.
In a few circles. It's insane. For us, you've got around 7, 8, like personnel at the track. There's some more people maybe at the factory, but at the track, that's it.
Right.
So there's around 2 engineers and like 5 mechanics, you know, there or thereabouts. Right. So they don't take rookies for the most part because they need people with experience. They can't afford to, right? So for something like this, where I was getting most of my training and development was an organization called ProDrive. So I joined ProDrive soon after I kind of left university. I had kind of heard that Lewis was setting up this team, and I was on the board of the Hamilton Commission. That's kind of how it all started out, and ProDrive were the organization that were going to be actually helping to run the X44 team. So X44 is almost a brand, but ProDrive was the technical partner behind it, and I was essentially working with ProDrive at the time. So that's essentially how it came about. I joined ProDrive and I joined X44, and that was a project that I was tasked with as a junior engineer. So I actually got a chance to be an apprentice on that project, you know, for the first year, and then the second year stepped up a bit. And usually you get to step up if someone's sick or has something to do, and then it's like, okay, cool, who's going to take this responsibility? So I took the responsibility to kind of be a performance engineer on that first event, and I never gave him the job back, right? But it's good for him because he can just focus on other engineering duties, right? So that's kind of what happened. So he went to kind of become the chief engineer, and then I became the kind of race engineer the following year. So that's kind of how it kind of all came about.
I mean, it just amplifies what you said earlier about, you know, your network. You know, you were at the Hamilton Commission, you were working with ProDrive, the dots connected, and then there you go, team X44.
Yeah, and ProDrive, that was the factory that I first visited when I was a student,
what you mentioned earlier.
At uni, exactly. So Formula student, and they actually rejected me in my third year from doing the project, but yeah, you know, it's ironic, right? So what I did instead was went to Rolls-Royce, got rejected the first time there as well, but the second time I kind of went, redesigned a component in their engine, saved them £50 million as a result of that, through kind of improving their aerodynamic efficiency on it, and that was my kind of third year project. So it was the best thing that could have happened to me, but I would say at that point, when that Formula student thing happened, I lost hope in the fact of, can I really make it into motorsport? If I can't do this student project after giving everything for the first 2 years, is it really going to happen? But of course the World Championship came a few years later, so it was good.
It all worked out. You mentioned the Hamilton Commission. So can you tell us how you initially got involved with that?
Yeah, so I got this random email from a guy called Lewis Hamilton. You know?
I haven't heard of him.
Yeah,
okay, cool. It does ring a bell.
It's a guy. He's a 7-time world champion. Should be 8. But
for IndyCar?
Formula One.
I must do my research.
Yeah. He's greatest of all time. So he's.
Oh, I know. He's born on the 7th of January. He's a Capricorn. About 5'7".
Works for Ferrari now.
Okay, yeah, it's all coming back to me, George.
Look at that. So he emailed me, and I thought, this must be spam. What's going on, right?
He emailed you.
Yeah,
on a random.
Yeah, on a random. Okay. So he heard about me for an organization called One Young World, and then they kind of recommended me because they were looking for some young people to join the board of the Hamilton Commission, to give them advice on what the barriers were that young black people were facing going into STEM and motorsport. And of course, at Motives, at that point, we've been doing it for 5 years. Myself, my personal journey, I had experienced some barriers. It's just getting into the industry just felt so opaque for the most part. It's hard to know how to get in, especially at that point. Now I think it's a bit more open. So yeah, you know, there's scholarships, there's different things now that just didn't exist before. But we helped to push off the back of the Hamilton Commission. So that's how I first kind of came across Lewis, in terms of...
He came across you.
He came across me. So yeah, he slid into the DMs, let's call it that.
He certainly did.
And then the rest was kind of history from there.
I love that. Yeah. I love stories like that. George, I've said it so many times, you do wear different hats, but you also have some notable accolades. Now, I'm always one to toot people's horns, and I'm going to name and shame your accolades, because we must give people their flowers whilst they are here. Yes, exactly. So, reeling them off. In 2019, you received a Diana Award for your impactful community work through Motivez. In 2022, you received the Young Engineer of the Year award, honoured by the Royal Academy of Engineering. And in 2023, you were honoured with an MBE for your services to engineering, technology, and young people.
Crazy.
An MBE, George.
Crazy.
Do you remember the moment you were told you were going to be receiving an MBE?
Yeah, I came back from a race.
I thought you were going to say a rave.
No.
Motives. I was at
Close,
raving.
yeah, I was exactly. I was at a Motives event. But literally, I came back from a race, and then I saw a letter in the post because you're always away. So letters just keep.
Was it a
piling
brown
up.
letter? You know, the brown envelope was a bit
No,
scary.
I think it was like it might have been. It was either white or brown. I remember what it said on it, and it was like His or Her Majesty's kind of service or whatnot. So I thought, mate, is this? Have I done something wrong? Like, what is going on? Because I hadn't opened it at that point. I was like, this must be jury service, or I've done something wrong. Like,
or a fine.
Or fine, or just something crazy. I got a fine to pay. Just reminded me.
Okay.
But thanks for that.
No worries.
But I was like, okay, what is this? And then I opened it. I was like, damn. It's like, you've been recommended by the Prime Minister for this MBE for blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? So until today, I still don't know who nominated me.
No way.
No idea. Yeah, no idea.
Well, it was Sir Lewis Hamilton. It must have been, no?
Yeah, he knows, right? So, yeah.
So what did your family say? Because my mum, she's obsessed with the royals. My grand's obsessed with the royals. I don't know if it's just like a older generation thing.
Yeah. I would say, so my mum is like, the proudest part of it all was taking my mum from Peckham to the palace. That is like, that's what you...
That's a line, isn't it?
That's a line.
If you were a rapper...
That's what you do it for. I would have put that in my lyrics all day long,
Peckham
right?
to the palace.
That for me was like the best part, because I was such a nuisance growing up. You would never know. You can never see it. It's
Gosh,
just,
I would never be able
the
to
research won't provide that.
Wow, the rebrand, George.
It's a complete rebrand, 180. But I think my kind of personality and whatnot probably hasn't changed much in terms of caring for people and wanting to kind of make a difference. But I would say it kind of all became purposeful, and a big part of that was her, because I saw how much she served people and her hospitality and everything. So for me, that it is about them, that moment was about them. And so it was really to just show that, hey, she came here, made sacrifices, and we've been recognized on the kind of highest level in the country for the work that, she had done on me, and, by virtue I've been able to do on the world. So yeah, that was special.
I bet she was very proud, and that WhatsApp,
very
that
proud.
WhatsApp group was...
It was popping
it was
off.
popping off.
Look, she's been privileged because she got another one the next year, because my brother got it, you know what I mean? So she's been living it up.
Gushing with pride.
She's living it up. So we've got an iconic photo back to back with me and my brother, and she's a legend.
Oh, large up mumsy.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you think about your journey so far, I mean, when you founded Motives in 2015, what legacy do you hope to leave behind, George?
It's an amazing question, and it's why I got involved in Motives in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And what my brother always used to say is, like, who's the richest person that died yesterday?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. So me focused on accumulating wealth and whatnot can't be the main focus. Of course, that provides options, but it shouldn't ever be the main focus. The main focus should be impact. It should be legacy. So for me personally, it's around creating the greatest amount of STEM change makers that we've ever seen, definitely in the UK, and just so that I'm not an anomaly, and that people really continue to do what we've done, but not necessarily it's like another organization, but do it in their organizations, do it in their firms. They feel empowered to go into, any of the F1 teams and really own whatever initiatives to bring people in, and don't feel tentative, don't feel scared about it, feel empowered. That's the Motives mindset. It's like, go off and make it happen, make your own program if you need to do it, but like, don't let anything restrict you. For me, that would be the number one goal, to do that for hundreds of thousands of kind of young people across the country, that is in the world. I think there's nothing stopping us. Next year we'll be across like EMEA, so we're kind of scaling quite a bit. So yeah, it's really across the world at the moment that we want to do that. So yeah, I think the legacy would be the greatest amount of STEM kind of change makers, trailblazers.
I'm sure our listeners are very inspired, because I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, I'm so inspired.
No, thank you.
Just finally, can you ask, George, a future guest, we don't know who they are, we don't know what they do, a question. It could be any question, any topic, personal, work, whatever you like.
So I ask a guest a question, if I could.
But we don't know the guest, so whatever question, and I'll tell you yours afterwards. You've got a question coming your way.
My gosh, that is so good.
Anything you like. It can be anything. Some of them are silly. Some of them are like work related.
That's a good question.
Shall I ask you your one? Then you can think.
Yeah, go for it.
Give you some thinking time. Okay, so this is quite simple. If you could bring in a new rule for Formula One, what would it be? One rule.
That is so good.
Look at your little engineer brain. Tick, tick, tick,
yeah,
tick,
there's
tick,
so
tick,
much.
tick, tick. I can see your brain ticking.
There's so much going on, because I actually think they've done a great job of like this most recent like place where we are with the regulations. Ultimately, you just want closer racing. So for me, it would probably be not like in terms of tire strategy.
Anything you like.
Yeah, it might be to do with tire strategy, and like some races they say it has to be a minimum of X stops or whatever it is. I would actually like, and maybe for that's mostly for safety predominantly, but who knows? I would like to see what it looks like without that being stipulated. What would actually happen without like saying, you have to try this compound or that compound. Let the teams figure it out, because I think some people will push it to the limits, and that could completely change everything.
I like that. Let's scrap the tyre compound. You have to do this compound and that compound, and scrap it all. Put the wets on.
Exactly. Do what you like, right? So that would be
nice. And your question can be anything, literally anything.
It probably would be if there was one, because I'm very fascinated by when Lewis leaves, what that paddock will kind of look like. What are interest in F1, like how that changes, how that evolves, because not everyone has a larger than life personality like him and like someone like Vettel. So I kind of want to know from anyone who that next person to kind of replace Lewis. I'll say replace, there might be so much better, but who that person could be within the F2, F3 or whatever kind of league. It might be, someone's little brother. But I'll be pretty curious so that I can watch that person.
Talent or presence?
Talent.
Okay.
Who's
the next
goat? Who the next goat is.
Okay.
I'm very curious, but like someone from a diverse background, I want to know who that might be.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Lovely. Oh, that will test their knowledge.
Yeah, that's going to test it. Yeah.
All right. I'll say that question's from George.
Yeah.
George, it's been amazing having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your stories, your insights, your advice. It's invaluable. Like, honestly, really, really amazing stuff. We really appreciate it, and we will continue to cheer you on, as always, of course. What an incredible conversation.
Great.
If you enjoyed this episode, guys, be sure to follow, make sure you're following Driven by Us, share it if you can, leave us a review. Every little helps. Of course, get involved and stay tuned, because there's going to be some amazing guests coming up this season. And until next time, keep pushing forward and stay driven.
Let's go.